Every once in a while you see a game that instantly grabs your attention, either thanks to its unique gameplay, story, visuals, or maybe because it reminds you of another game you love. Chernobylite was that case for me. It reminded me of my favorite franchise, Stalker, and I was looking forward to its release. Now, after playing through its early access, I can say that it is not a successor everyone is waiting for. While it certainly takes inspiration from it, Chernobylite is on its own path to create a unique adventure in Chernobyl exclusion zone, and that is a good thing. Today, I will be taking a deeper look at it and talk about what developers did right and what can be improved before its final release. Also, bear in mind that by the time you're watching this video, some of these complaints may already be fixed because developers are listening to community and releasing patches constantly. This critique is split into multiple parts that are all timestamped in the description, and now without any further delays, let's begin. Developers went to Chernobyl and 3D scanned most of the environments, and thanks to that they perfectly managed to capture a feeling of desolated and empty world after nuclear catastrophe. There are signs of humans living here everywhere, from rusty cars, abandoned buildings filled with everyday appliances, to these creepy dolls that talk to you.
Игорь. Все
Я что, с куклой разговариваю?
When you're exploring, you feel loneliness and hostility of the zone, and it slowly immerses you into its world that you want to know more about. Great atmosphere is accompanied by visuals that are just as good, especially if you consider that this is an early access indie game. Built in Unreal Engine 4, Chernobylite can create stunning sceneries, so pretty, you could put them on your wall. Maps also have different weather conditions on each day, so one time it could be sunny, and on next day you will be soaked by rain. Another interesting visual mechanic are storms. These basically limit your time on a map, and as it shrinks, their presence gets bigger and bigger. At the beginning you can only hear ominous sounds in the distance, but in last minutes there are thunders and clouds everywhere, anomalies go crazy, and you can feel the pressure building up. Once you're done admiring Soviet infrastructure, you can move indoors, where things get creepy. Electricity doesn't work, and your only source of light is a tiny flashlight that lasts about 2 minutes. Coupled with hallucinations, monsters, and lack of ammo, this is when Chernobylite reminded me of Stalker most. You can find abandoned hospitals, villages, apartments, or bunkers scattered around the map. Every building is filled with things to loot or admire, and I'm glad that authors didn't just slap some empty rooms together, but decided to fill them with things that are worth your time. On the other hand, some character models, especially enemies, could use some work. I also mentioned dark, that is good for creating atmosphere indoors, but outside it only makes exploration confusing. I got lost many times just because I couldn't see where I was going. Animations look okay during cutscenes, but outside of those, enemies move like figurines on strings, and takedown animations are not yet finished. Developers also use this neat little trick of giving everyone a mask so they don't have to lip sync anyone, but of course, this could be also explained by radiation in zone. Still, atmosphere and visuals are by far best things about Chernobylite, so let's move on to parts that need some work. After you complete prologue mission that explains basic mechanics and story background, you arrive at your base and are introduced to Chernobylite's gameplay loop. You begin each day by going to the map and selecting mission for yourself and your companions. Once you transported to one of 3 locations, you finish your objective and move back to your base. There, you can see if everyone completed or failed their missions, give out rations, and then you are free to move around your little home. You can spend skill points on training with your mates, work on base itself, or check out your investigation panel, where you can see all the clues and facts you collected so far that will slowly reveal what is going on. Once you're done with that, you go to sleep and begin another day. Now, this loop is fun at first, but as you progress through days, it starts to get a bit repetitive. What I would love to see is an open world in Stalker style, where you can move from one location to another and not be limited by time or objectives. If you want, you could return to base at any time just like you do now, but it wouldn't be necessary, and you would get missions naturally as you complete them. Or if developers want to keep this mechanic, they could just add some variations. For example, in some missions you could be ambushed, not return to base, and spend, let's say, 2 days in same location with different objectives. You know, just to break it up a little. Another interesting mechanic is that you only have few days to complete each story and side quest, and it is possible to fail main missions and miss a chunk of storyline, which will then disrupt your investigation. Honestly, this is a double-edged sword. While on one hand, you always have to think about what you want to do by yourself and what you can leave to your companions, and which mission is more important, losing parts of storyline in a game based around story is not good either. Currently, if you miss a mission, it reappears after a day or two, so we will see how developers plan on utilizing this in full version. Now let's see what happens once you get transported into another world. I mean mission location. Exploration, combat and sneak are 3 main ingredients in this path, and 2 of them left sour taste in my mouth. Let's start with good one, exploration. It is fun to explore various buildings and question marks. They always reward you with something. You can save Stalker from being shot by soldiers, or meet the proper Slough with his own loot boxes. Spooky hallucinations and scary moments are common. This game scared me more than my account balance. You can find supplies necessary for survival or clues, and for that there is this helpful little scanner that will highlight anything salvageable with the press of a button. For me, this scanner kinda ruined atmosphere and exploration, because it turned me into a little fiend looking for anything green that I could pick up, instead of finding things naturally as I came across them. There's also an option of not using scanner at all. But good luck trying to find anything without it. Supplies are hard to see thanks to dark environments, and they also blend in easily. Scanner also comes with these options of only searching for specific type of thing, but no matter what you choose, it still shows everything. Developers need to come up with a better way of highlighting items, maybe make them stand out a bit more, make category system work, or remove scanner altogether, so you're not tempted to press it every second. Another thing you don't want to be doing every second is combat. One word to describe it would be clunky. AI has seen better days as well. Sometimes they stand around and do nothing, and next time they have infinite magazines and pinpoint accuracy, where once they lock you in, there is no escape. They can also see you through walls and find you anywhere you go, like dogs hunting rabbit. Except they have semi-automatic rifles. Weapon selection is weak, you can only use a revolver that has crazy recoil and 6 bullets in a magazine, so you better learn how to dodge and reload fast. Thankfully, shotgun is powerful, and as long as you keep your enemies' heads close, it does its job. Guns at least have good sound, animations and visual, but the impact, weight and feeling behind shooting is not there yet. Farm 51 created Get Even and most importantly World War III, a multiplayer FPS game, so I don't understand why they just didn't take what worked there and put it in Chernobylite. Sneaking, well, it works. Once again, AI stupidity is insulting. I can wall rag next to them and they don't care, as long as I am not in their line of sight. I can use flashlight right behind them and they don't mind either. Usually they just stand at one place and their patrol routes are simple and easy to move around. Outside of soldiers you also find these shadows that teleport through portals and sprint at you. But it takes them so much time to actually attack you that I could go grab a dinner before one even decided to move. Also there are only 2 enemy types, so hopefully we will see some variations on both monster and human side. And finally, we have base building and crafting. Both are okay. Building uses a simple system where you have 2 things that you need to balance: power usage and life comfort. Just as an example, making beds, plants or wardrobes increases comfort, while constructing a loud power generator isn't very pleasant, but it gives you juice that you need for crafting stations, TVs and lights. What I liked is that everything has a purpose. You don't have thousands of decorative items, only things you could really find in Chernobyl after nuclear disaster. That way it never gets too complicated and you don't have to move through hundreds of color variations for your fridge in order to find useful stuff. Unfortunately some items don't work, so you can't use anything as a storage. Right now you just dump things you don't need on the ground. In a game where half the time is spent gathering resources, storage space is a must, so hopefully it will come in future updates. Crafting is kinda useless right now. Honestly, I completely forgot about it until I noticed it written down in my notes. You can craft ammo, medkits and adrenaline, but those can also be found easily out in the wild, and I never felt like I needed to use it. And finally, a few words about companions. Outside of sending them on missions, they can also train you, with each one being expert on different things, like survival, weapons, stealth, stamina, or inventory capacity. You recruit them by completing story missions, and once again, depending on your choices, they might not join you. If you don't take care of them, they can leave, or if you don't want to wait for that, just shoot them in the head. So far their main function is training and supply gathering, but I wonder if they will have impact on story as well, like not having certain guys in the base would make you fail missions and so on. With gameplay out of the way, let's take a look at some design choices that vary from good to Fallout 76 level bad. Let's start with level design. While visually stunning and filled with details, levels suffer from one big flaw: artificial invisible walls. A lot of pathways are blocked by ruined cars, anomalies, or most commonly, radiation. So even if you see something interesting in distance or think you found a shortcut, it's usually blocked and you have to return to your original straight path. Of course, there are exceptions. Map centers are more open-ended, but once you move away from them, it is one invisible wall after another. This for me was very confusing, especially when I was exploring locations for first time, because if I somehow strayed from the right trail, I was then constantly bombarded by radiation packets that wouldn't allow me to progress unless I returned to predestined path. This was mainly a problem in Kopachi area. On the other hand, Pripyat was a lot more forgiving. I managed to find some alternate routes around it, without too many artificial barriers, and Eye of Moscow was somewhere in the middle. When the maps are open, it is a lot of fun to move around them, but as soon as you come across some of the more linear pathways, you can get annoyed easily. Now, I understand that there have to be dangers around the map, but I would prefer if they were randomly scattered, instead of being used as barriers. There are currently 3 maps, with around 9 main missions, so we'll return to them quite often, which can get repetitive after some time. Thankfully, developers found ways to deal with that. Story missions begin at different points of the map, and there are these random encounters I already mentioned before. What is interesting though, is that some of them happen only on certain days and in certain locations, so each day you will be surprised with something new.
1985. О, это выходит 5. Ого, так это больше 10 лет.
Some of them are not finished yet. For example, I met a guy on day 2 who was selling stuff and then met him again when he was stealing from dead bodies, and he promised to give me better prices next time I met him if I don't rat him out. But the next day I met him again, doing same thing with same dialogue, and I never met him as a trader again. One more thing I noticed when I was replaying maps over and over is that enemy placement and their patrol routes are always same. There is this group of 4 Kopachi soldiers that I killed at least 5 times, and they were always standing on same spots, facing same directions. Patrols are like that as well. They spawn at fixed locations and do their rounds. So once I went through maps several times, I knew exactly how to move around them. A bit of variation wouldn't hurt. Just look at Stalker and its random AI for inspiration. Next design choice I don't understand is your inability to save the game. There are checkpoints during missions, but those will only help when you quit the game and go back to it. You can load them anytime you want. There is an option of loading specific days if you already played them, but still, I would appreciate if you could save during missions as well. Maybe a save limit could work. Let's say 2 saves per mission. And finally, the cherry on top: time limit. Now this problem was addressed in latest update, but I still want to talk about it, because for me, this was the biggest design flaw. When you start a mission, a countdown of 30 minutes appears, after which an invincible enemy spawns. And trust me, you don't want to face him. So therefore you have to hurry if you want to finish your mission, complete encounters, and get some supplies for your base. This mechanic goes against the whole premise of Chernobylite. A game that rewards careful exploration, tries to build tense and scary atmosphere, encourages slow pace, then spits in your face by saying, well, you only have 30 minutes for all of that, so you better hurry. It just doesn't make any sense. It's as if you put puzzle in the middle of Doom level, or put leveling system in Wolfenstein. Wait, they actually did that, but you can see my point. Thankfully, in newest update they removed time limit, so instead of watching clock, you have to look for signs in environment. And you can also create a device that makes storms less common. Still, I would prefer if they removed any sort of limit altogether and just let me explore at my own pace. If you want to make me feel threatened by this black stalker, how about you make him a bit more like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, where he attacks you at specific points and you can actually fight him or run away. In Chernobylite, you play as Igor, who returns to Zone after 30 years to look for his fiancée Tatiana and uncover what happened to her during catastrophe. Early access didn't reveal too much from the plot, but from what I could see so far, it looks interesting. Farm 51 made Get Even, and I loved Story of that game. It was mysterious and full of twists, and looks like Chernobylite will be like that as well. A lot of plots were only set up so far. You have mystery of Tatiana's disappearance, Black Stalker, Rat King, time travel, and Chernobylite, the mysterious material that powers your traveling device and seems to be at center of this whole thing. Characters that were introduced so far didn't have many opportunities to shine, but I can see a lot of potential in them, if developers decide to flesh them out. Choices seem to be an important part of narrative, and they accompany you right from the beginning. As you make different choices, characters will become your allies or enemies. You get different clues and missions, whose order can also change, and as these choices snowball onto each other, they create a unique narrative. This decision making is great so far, one of game's best parts. I hope it will be possible to get a completely different outcome based on my choices. Now I want to delve a bit deeper into storyline and some of its mechanics, but for that I need to step into spoiler territory, so for those of you that didn't have time to play Chernobylite yet, you can skip ahead.
Вооружен, опасен и совсем без крыши. Что может пойти не так?
Once again, developers already changed mechanic I want to talk about, but I still have something to say, just in case they decide to return it. Once you reach day 10, a huge nuclear explosion used to send you back to beginning. However, Igor remembered his previous adventures, and you could use this alternate memory mechanic to skip around missions and continue where your previous cycle left you. Now, I didn't understand the point of all this, because if it is possible to skip around missions and start where you left off, why even bother sending us right back to beginning? Why not just let us play for 20, 30 or 50 days without interruption? If people want to try out different outcomes, they can just start a new game. There is no need to force it on us. Before new update, you also lost all levels, perks and story clues. Thankfully that is gone now. But with that out of the way, I really don't see any point in this 10-day loop. Yes, if you didn't manage to complete everything in your first round like I did and skipped some missions, then okay, it can be useful. But again, why not just let us continue on day 11, 12 and so on. This roguelike mechanic doesn't fit in, and I have a feeling it is in here just to test it out, because I doubt that whole game will only have a 10-day cycle. Hopefully they will just remove it entirely. And as I was making this video, they indeed got rid of it, and now we can spend 100 days in the zone instead of 10. So good job on that one, developers. Performance is something a lot of early access games struggle with, and Chernobylite is no exception. I read that some people have trouble running it even if their machines met recommended requirements. However, on my PC it works flawlessly, on both high and ultra settings, so personally I can't complain. Only problem I had was whenever I went into dimensions between levels, game froze up for a few seconds. I guess that it serves as a loading area. I also didn't notice any significant gameplay or visual bugs, and only got one crash through my whole playthrough, which is great for an early access. Final thing to talk about is sound. Here I have to praise sound effects in general. Storms sound absolutely terrifying, monsters will creep you out, and while exploring I got scared multiple times just with sound alone. But voice acting is not that good. I know that it is supposed to be temporary, and it better be, because right now voice actors sound like they're reading a manual. Boring, unenthusiastic, and all over the place. Plus sound levels jump from too high to so low I can barely hear them over in-game sounds. And what is worse is that huge parts of dialogue are still not voiced, and subtitles sometimes don't work, so you have no idea what everyone is talking about. Authors really need to work on this aspect. Voice acting is extremely important in story-focused game like this one. Otherwise, huge scenes that you worked on for months might lose all their impact.
Да, кто ты?
Ну, наконец-то! А я за тобой наблюдал. Ты неплох для старика. Думаю, вместе мы на многое способны.
Считай, что я польщен. Что ты от меня хочешь?
Chernobylite has this problem of trying to fit in every mechanic it can possibly think of, even if it doesn't work. You have roguelike elements, base building, crafting, time limits, along with story focus, combat, sneak, while in reality you could cut half of these and still have a great game. I did enjoy my time spent with it and I don't regret this purchase, but at this state I can't recommend it to everyone. Get it if you enjoy games with great atmosphere, focused on exploration, horror and story. Or if you like Chernobyl, its recreation is top tier, and if you don't have money or time to go to the zone, then this is close as you can get to experiencing it. But if you have problems with clunky combat, stupid AI and limited amount of content, then it is probably better to wait for final version. I wish developers good luck, and hopefully early access will be a success. Game has huge potential, and if they manage to iron out all the problems I talked about and add all the content they promised with their roadmap, then Chernobylite is on its way to becoming next big hit, worthy of standing next to Stalker. And yeah guys, I guess that's about it. Just to let you know, this was my longest scripted video I ever did, so hopefully you will like it. Please let me know what I did right, what I did wrong, what I should improve. Anyway, when it comes to my next video, I have Daisy review coming up, and after that I should have 2 Outer Worlds videos, and by the time I finish with those, it might already be December. So after that I'm planning to do an Enderall review, and after that we'll probably have the top 10 Fallout New Vegas mods that came out in 2019. And yeah guys, I guess that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, tell me what you think about it in the comments, subscribe for more Fallout and other games content, and I will see you next time.